In today's world, fraught with challenges and stresses, there's a danger that one might realize a significant portion of their life has passed by, unfulfilled and not fully lived. Psychotropic medications, widely used to treat anxiety disorders and depression, often prove to be only temporary solutions, failing to address the root of the problem and leading to dependence. However, alternative paths to healing exist that don't involve medication. In the pursuit of wisdom, let's turn to the legacy of Carl Jung, a distinguished psychiatrist whose ideas can shed light on how to find harmony and overcome psychological ailments without drugs. Despite scientific advancements, the belief that anxiety disorders stem from changes in the brain still persists in medical circles. Unfortunately, many doctors continue to adhere to this outdated dogma, harming their patients, whose numbers are steadily increasing. These patients, often misled by medical doctrine, are convinced of the physical nature of their illness, unaware of the deep psychological causes. In his work, The Symbolic Life, Carl Jung hypothesized that the root of many anxiety states and depressive disorders lies not in organic brain dysfunctions, but in flawed life attitudes. Consequently, the primary task in Jung's therapeutic approach was not to prescribe medication, but to instill in the patient's consciousness a profound psychological understanding. This involved recognizing real-life perspectives and identifying the necessary steps for positive change. Jung pointed out that many people tend to perceive life as something cloudless, where suffering should be minimized and any difficulties avoided. However, in conversations with his patients, Jung explicitly stated that life, by its nature, is not an easy stroll, and a state of comfort and serenity is not natural for humans. In his work, The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, Jung wrote, "Ultimately, it is highly improbable that there will ever be a therapy that removes all difficulties. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. What worries us is only their excess." Recognizing the undeniable fact that difficulties are an integral part of life and that achieving meaningful goals requires effort allows a person to gain a firm foothold in reality. It is from this realistic foundation that the process of personal change and growth begins. Acknowledging life's challenges opens the way to realizing that only the tempering of character grants a chance for a dignified existence. Remaining trapped in the illusion of an easy life dulls the desire to work on oneself, creating a false hope that time alone will make life easier. As Carl Jung astutely noted in his work, Man and His Symbols, life is an eternal arena of struggle, and if it were otherwise, existence itself would come to an end. Jung also emphasized the importance of patients realizing one key psychological aspect. Our problems are rooted in the present, and their solution does not lie in endless digging into the past. Many people tend to believe that only by understanding the reasons that shape their personality can they move forward. However, according to Jung, excessive preoccupation with the past is nothing more than a tactic to avoid the pressing task of confronting what needs to be done at the moment. The psychological nature of humans is such that individuals, whether prone to neuroses or not, instinctively avoid self-analysis and searching for the causes of personal troubles. Instead, they seek to shift responsibility to external circumstances, pushing the source of problems as far into the past as possible or attributing it to the influence of others. This is due to the fear of having to change and work on oneself, which seems a much more difficult task than blaming others or attributing fault to events long past. This strategy allows one to maintain the illusion of comfort and avoid the painful process of self-improvement. Revealing the deep aspects of the human psyche, Carl Jung offered an effective method of treatment, the starting point of which is confronting the so-called shadow. In his opinion, the first requirement of any thorough psychological approach is the confrontation of consciousness with its shadow. By shadow, Jung meant the totality of those character traits that a person is ashamed of, unsure about, or condemns, and therefore diligently suppresses into the realm of the unconscious. It's a kind of dark side of the personality, consisting of impulses, desires, and qualities unacceptable to consciousness. The shadow is that secret part of human nature that an individual tries to hide not only from others, but sometimes even from themselves. Carl Jung asserted that humans, in their essence, fall short of the ideals they pursue or the image they project. Everyone carries this shadow, and the more it is suppressed in the conscious mind, the darker and denser it becomes. Jung placed immense importance on confronting the shadow side of the personality during the process of self-discovery and transformation. He explained that denying the unseemly aspects of one's self is not beneficial. On the contrary, it leads to a loss of control over their manifestations. Acknowledging one's own shortcomings allows one to learn how to manage them, minimizing their negative impact on life. Jung clarified that everything brought into awareness can be corrected, while that which is repressed into the unconscious evades control and, left to its own devices, only worsens. Fortunately, nature is arranged in such a way that the unconscious sooner or later breaks through into consciousness, introducing the necessary chaos for further development. In his work, Mysterium Conjunctionis, Carl Jung reveals the multifaceted nature of the shadow, asserting that it is not merely a collection of weaknesses. In reality, the shadow may conceal strong aspects of the personality, suppressed in youth under the influence of the environment. Peers, family, or society as a whole could have formed in the individual a mistaken notion about the unacceptability of certain character traits, forcing them to suppress them. For example, a person may have learned to restrain anger or refuse to defend their own interests. Jung emphasizes that awareness of the shadow unlocks access to vitally important aspects of the personality. In Psychology and Religion, he writes that the shadow is not solely a negative phenomenon, but contains qualities capable of enlivening and embellishing human existence, but suppressed by social norms. One of the paths to awareness of the shadow, according to Jung, is observing the weaknesses and shortcomings of those around us. This is because people not only tend to suppress similar character traits, but also project elements of their shadow onto others, seeing in them a reflection of their own unacknowledged qualities. Consequently, close attention to those character traits of loved ones that cause us discomfort can become a valuable key to understanding our own shadow side. Along with observing those around us, another effective way to bring the shadow into the light of consciousness is a deep analysis of the motives underlying our actions, especially those for which we feel shame. It is important to be receptive to self-criticism when it is deserved. After all, as Jung rightly noted, often the only obstacle on the path to awareness of one's shadow is a lack of honesty with oneself. A little self-criticism is enough to see one's shadow. Carl Jung, Ion. In addition to awareness of the shadow, an integral part of Jung's therapeutic approach was helping patients find meaning in existence. Jung was convinced that in situations where a person is in the throes of deep depression or suffers from an anxiety disorder, it is necessary to realize one's role as one of the actors in the divine drama of life. Carl Jung, Symbolic Life for Healing. For a deeper understanding of this concept, one can turn to Jung's momentous meeting with a Pueblo tribe, chief, which took place in the first half of the 20th century. During a conversation with a representative of the indigenous population, Carl Jung witnessed a revelation that shed light on the worldview of an entire tribe. The tribe chief bitterly noted that their small people were facing pressure from Americans seeking to encroach on their religious foundations. He emphasized that such interference was unacceptable because they, the members of the tribe, were sons of Father's Son. Pointing to the celestial body, the chief explained that their duty was to help Father rise above the horizon every day and make his way across the sky. And this service, he said, was performed not only for their own benefit, but also for the prosperity of America and the entire world. Jung realized that, for many representatives of modern society, such a statement would seem absurd and an outdated relic of the past. However, as he rightly noted, the members of this tribe are not subject to the suffering that so often torments modern man. They are not exhausted by neuroses, anxiety states, and depression. They do not need to take daily medication and do not seek solace in harmful addictions. On the contrary, this tribe consists of people who successfully realize their potential, seeing themselves as performers of an important role in the divine mystery of life. Their existence is filled with deep meaning and a high purpose, or, as Jung himself put it, the works of Carl Jung present a vivid picture of the contrast between two diametrically opposed ways of life. On one hand, he describes people whose existence is filled with deep meaning and a sense of duty. They perceive themselves as an integral part of the universe, as sons of the sun, whose mission is to help the daylight rise above the horizon, bringing light and life not only to themselves but to the entire world. Their appearance exudes a natural, dignified air stemming from an awareness of their significance and responsibility. In contrast, Jung cites the example of a Western woman he met. This woman, he said, was the embodiment of insatiable thirst and aimless wandering. She was constantly on the run, moving from one place to another in a futile search for something elusive. In this woman's eyes, Jung saw the reflection of a cornered animal, forever searching and hoping, but never finding peace. Jung explains her obsession as a lack of meaning in her existence. Her life, in his opinion, was grotesquely banal, devoid of any purpose. He argues that her death would leave no trace because she, in herself, represented nothing significant. The Western world is gripped by an obsessive desire for change and escape from the mundane. Many people, as if possessed, flit between different cities and countries, while others, driven by romantic impulses, relentlessly seek new partners. Many are also consumed by a thirst for profit, striving for prestige, fame, and recognition in the virtual space of social networks. However, despite the diversity of external manifestations, the underlying motivation for this pursuit is the same: an escape from the grayness and monotony of existence. Such seekers try to fill the gaping void created by the meaninglessness of their lives. But, as Carl Jung rightly points out, this void cannot be filled by material goods or fleeting experiences. True fulfillment comes only when a person realizes that their life has meaning and can change the world for the better. As an example, Jung cites the words of a woman he met. If she could say, "I am the daughter of the moon. Every night I must help the moon, my mother, over the horizon," that would fundamentally change her existence. Then her life would have meaning, permeating all her moments and extending to all of humanity. It is this awareness that gives the soul peace when a person feels like an actor in a magnificent divine drama. This is the true meaning of human life. Everything else is vanity and empty. Chores, career, having children, all this is just an illusion, Maya, compared to the realization that your life has genuine meaning. In his work, Symbolic Life, Carl Jung was not advocating for the wholesale adoption of Pueblo Indian mythology. His profound thought was that the root of many people's suffering lies in a sense of the meaninglessness of existence. And the task facing everyone who seeks to break free from the shackles of anxiety and depression is to uncover this meaning, to find justification for their presence in this world. Like the Pueblo Indians, it is necessary to find faith in the fact that life is filled with a higher meaning. The ways to achieve this goal may be different. For some, it is religion, giving comfort and direction. For others, it is making a significant contribution to the promotion of universal human values, such as justice, freedom, and unity. Still others find meaning in creative self-expression, creating the new and beautiful. However, for residents of the modern Western world, devoid of a unifying mythology, the responsibility for filling life with meaning falls entirely on their own shoulders. It is they who must determine their significant role in the divine drama of being. Those few who succeed in this task will have a full and meaningful life filled with joy and satisfaction. But those who cannot find their way will face a sad fate, long years of senseless suffering and fruitless searches clouding their existence. Carl Jung expresses deep concern about the realization of the potential inherent in every human being. In his opinion, this is the main task and pressing problem. This becomes especially important for a genuine community, where each individual strives to ensure that their actions today contribute to the spiritual and personal growth of their predecessors, allowing them to rise above the horizon. Jung emphasizes that true care for others lies in creating conditions for their self-realization and transcendence.